All right, good evening. I'm Texas Storm Chasers Baldy and Chief David-Reimer. We've got a tornado warning now for a severe thunderstorm located about 12 miles northwest of Dickens in Dickens County. This is going to be in west central Texas. For those of you who make the drive regularly from Lubbock to northern sides of DFW, from Lubbock up to Wichita Falls, this is going to be a tornado warning about 2 counties east of Lubbock. Specifically approaching and moving towards Dickens, Texas. This is going to be a severe thunderstorm. There. Hey, look, it's me. Camera's not happy with me, but I'm still here. It's going to be a tornado warning that does include the city of... There we go. Let me post some of this. And again, the reason we're here is we do have a tornado warning. And this is going to be for Dickens, the city of Dickens, the community of Dickens in Dickens County. Technically, this includes Dickens and, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that name, sorry. The McAdoo community of McAdoo. The West Texas Mesonet station in McAdoo, northwest of Dickens, has just recorded a 90-mile-per-hour wind gust with this dangerous supercell. So this has been a relatively long-lived supercell. This brought baseball-sized hail earlier to Tulia, and Interstate 27 brought baseball-sized hail just north of Floydada. And now this thunderstorm, in addition to producing hurricane-force straight-line winds of 90 to 100 miles per hour, is also capable of producing a rain-wrapped tornado. And this is moving towards the town of Dickens in west central Texas. So if you're in Dickens up to McAdoo, you need to be in a safe place. It's going to be the lowest floor, center room, away from windows. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. That means you, first off, don't bother going outside looking for a tornado. You're not going to see it. This thing is so wrapped up in heavy rain and hail, it's ridiculous. I know visibility's great out here in west central Texas, and that's why we love chasing out there, but you're not going to see anything with this. It is so wrapped up in rain and hail. The only thing you're going to see is a hailstone to the face, and then you might be able to hear it if it's down, but you might also just be hearing a hail roar, given the very impressive hail core this. So again, this is a thunderstorm with a history of producing 90 to 100 mile an hour straight line winds in the last 10 minutes. In addition, now capable of producing baseball size hail, as it's been doing for hours now, all the way back up to Interstate 27. And this thunderstorm is capable of producing a rain-wrapped tornado. At present speed and course, this thunderstorm will be approaching Dickens in the next 20 minutes. Specifically, this could be very near Dickens by 10 to 10:02 p.m. So those of you in Dickens, you need to be moving to your safe locations. Best place to go would be a cellar or a storm shelter if you have that. But if you don't, no worries. Just get as low as you can. That's going to be lowest floor, center room. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Even if there's not a tornado, this thunderstorm within the last 10 minutes has produced a 90-mile-an-hour wind gust at a weather station near McAdoo. This storm has a long history now of producing baseball-sized hail north of Floydada all the way back to Tulia on Interstate 27. And this thunderstorm is also capable of producing a rain-wrapped tornado. So again, those of you on 82 between Dickens all the way to just east of Crosbyton, you need to be in a safe place. Those of you on 70 around Dickens and Dickens County need to be in a safe place. This is south of Roaring Springs, south of Matador. I know it's pouring rain in Matador and Roaring Springs right now, but any sort of tornado mischief is going to stay to your south. Eventually, this thunderstorm may be a threat to Spur in southern Dickens County. If it's still producing a tornado, going to be a problem for Spur. In all likelihood, big hail, big wind heading towards Spur. So regardless, a tornado warning is in effect until 10:15 p.m. Central Time for Dickens in west central Texas. That is a community east of Lubbock by 2 counties, east of Rawls, and then that's going to be west of Guthrie on Highway 82. This is north of Spur for now and staying well south of Matador. So those of you in Dickens, even if we don't have a tornado, we do in all likelihood have extremely large hail, baseball to softball size hail with winds of 90 to 100 miles an hour. And let me tell you, that will mess you up. So you want to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible, simply for the fact if hail starts coming through windows and comes through your roof, you're in a better position to be protected. And that's just not going to be good news for anybody. Farther south, we do have a couple of severe storms. We've got a severe storm. This is going to be crossing over Highway 67 west of Coleman, east of Bollinger in the next 15 to 20 minutes. This storm has a history of producing golf ball to baseball size hail and is moving southeast at about 25 miles an hour. This is going to stay mostly west of Coleman. It could pass a bit closer to Santa Ana, but otherwise this is going to remain over mostly rural areas. Eventually moving over Highway 67 near Valera. Talpa to Valera, probably staying west of Coleman, just west of Santa Ana, hopefully. And then it's going to cross over 283, maybe in about an hour near Rockwood, if the thunderstorm is still in existence. I do expect we're going to see some weakening trends with these, at least that specific storm, farther south over the next hour or two, but exactly when that weakening occurs is still up in the air figuratively. We've got a couple storms capable of producing quarter to ping pong ball size hail on Highway 180 between Snyder and Roby up to Rotan on 70. And again, these storms are mostly moving southeast at about 30 miles an hour, so maybe more hail for Sweetwater in the next hour. And then again, we've got this nasty supercell capable of producing a tornado now approaching Dickens, but this storm's also capable of producing baseball to softball size hail, and a 90-mile-an-hour wind gust was measured in McAdoo, MCADOO, the West Texas Weather Station mesonet there, about 10 minutes ago. So this thing is capable of causing major damage in terms of wind-driven destructive hail. So please take that seriously and understand that thing will ruin your day. Otherwise, we're going to probably see additional thunderstorms develop in eastern New Mexico and the western Texas Panhandle within the next hour or two. Fill in tonight. We're expecting a pretty widespread rain and storm event tonight across the Panhandle with much needed rainfall. A few storms may have some pocket change size hail, but we're not expecting tornadoes or at least widespread damaging winds. And then all that rain's going to continue into Wednesday morning, expanding east into Oklahoma. So much needed rainfall. Finally. But again, we're here, a dangerous thunderstorm capable of producing a rain-wrapped tornado, baseball to softball size hail, and winds of 90 to 100 miles an hour now approaching Dickens, which is at the intersection of Highway 70 and Highway 82/114. It's going to be 2 counties east of Lubbock. This is west of Guthrie, east of Rawls, south of Matador, north of Spur for now. Although we note this is going to probably be in Spur in the next 20 minutes by 10:15 at its present course. It's moving southeast at about 35 miles an hour. Baseball to softball size hail, winds of 90 to 100 miles an hour, and a tornado cannot be ruled out, although frankly the hail and wind problems alone shouldn't be encouraging you to shelter. Best places to go, if you got a cellar or storm shelter, that's great, go there. Otherwise, you know what, lowest floor, center room, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Do not be near any windows. And keep in mind, this kind of hail wind event is certainly capable of causing major damage to structures in terms of damaging siding. Hail could go through roofs and windows with ease in this case when you've got baseball to softball size hail being flung around at 90 to 100 miles an hour. So again, those of y'all in Dickens or to down to Spur need to get into a safe place. And understand, if there is a tornado, you're not going to see it. The strongest low-level circulation is still north of 82, west of 70, but the hail core and the very, very strong winds are already over and south of 82, coming into Dickens now. So regardless, you're not going to see a tornado. If it's there, it's wrapped in rain, and probably would occur after you got hit by the initial surge of wind and hail regardless. So please don't go outside looking for a tornado. You're not going to see it. You're going to see the thunderstorm, that's for sure. This thing's probably lit up like a Christmas tree 2 days before Christmas. If it was, what's that movie, the Christmas Vacation? You know, that scene where you could see the Christmas lights from space? Well, figuratively speaking, you probably can see this thunderstorm too. As we head back into the big country, into portions of the Concho Valley, we've got a nasty little supercell that's not so little. This is going to be west of Coleman. Well, here, you know what? Let's just smile and wave and press a couple buttons here, and I'll tell you exactly where this thunderstorm is west of Coleman. Specifically, storm is currently sitting about 7 miles west-southwest of Coleman, coming up to Highway 67 near Valera. Tennis ball to baseball size hail, and 60 to 70 mile an hour winds. This thunderstorm is moving towards Santa Ana and Rockwood, moving southeast at 25 miles an hour. And again, this thunderstorm has a history of producing baseball-size hail all the way back to Sweetwater on Interstate 20. Meteorologist Jason Cooley was live streaming this storm earlier. At sunset, it was a very well-structured supercell thunderstorm with pancake layers and a lot of essentially, it was just spinning like a top. It was a beautiful thunderstorm. But now it is well after dark. The only way you're going to see this thing is lit up with lightning. And again, this storm has a history of producing baseball-sized hail all the way back to Sweetwater on I-20, and the potential for 60, 70 mile an hour wind gusts, heavy rainfall, and if we get lightning strikes outside of where it's raining, this could also ignite grass fires, brush fires, whatever type of fire you may want to be. So again, going back up here, we'll press some magic super duper awesome blossom buttons, and we're here because we've got a tornado warning for Dickens in Dickens County and west central Texas. Again, this is east of Rawls, east of Crosbyton, west of Guthrie, south of Roaring Springs, and south of Matador. This thunderstorm produced a 90 mile an hour wind gust near McAdoo at 9:39 p.m., with hurricane force winds continuing for at least 5 to 10 minutes thereafter. Understand, this thing's also throwing out baseball-size hail at least, and is moving southeast at 35 miles an hour. Those of you in Spur, this is going to be approaching you by 10:15. Dickens, it's coming into town right now, so understand y'all need to be in a safe place. Lowest floor, center room, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible, not necessarily because there's a possible rain-wrapped tornado, but because this thing's throwing out baseball-sized hail with 90 to 100 mile an hour winds. And Dickens, let me tell you, this thing's probably going to blow out every north-facing window in town with this hail coming in. I really hope not, but it is a pretty good plausibility this thing's going to be breaking a lot of windows in Dickens over the next 5 to 10 minutes, so please stay away from windows. We don't want anyone injured by flying glass or, you know, giant hail coming through the windows. Again, at this point, we're still seeing indications of a couple transient circulations here. We're seeing one right on Highway 82, maybe 4 miles west of Dickens. Another one probably closer to 10 miles northwest of Dickens. And with this kind of a supercell, it's essentially creating its own environment to where we're seeing some of these circulations move in various directions, kind of like we saw in central Oklahoma last Wednesday, where these thunderstorms become organized enough to where they're literally able to, some circulations are going to move southeast, others northeast, etc. So those of you in Dickens need to be in a safe place. It's going to be lowest floor, center room, away from windows, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. So we have multiple circulations with this thunderstorm that could put down a tornado, in addition to the potential for 90 to 100 mile an hour straight line winds and baseball or bigger than baseball size hail. And again, this is going to be Dickens. 2 counties east of Lubbock, east of Roaring Springs, south of Roaring Springs, east of Crosbyton, west of Guthrie, north of Spur, eventually moving down towards Spur and Gilpin. So again, there's a high probability we're about to lose a lot of windows in Dickens. Dickens already has golf ball size hail and very strong winds reported by the fire department. Hail sizes are about to get even higher or larger in Dickens. Same thing goes for Elton, which is north of 82 on 70 here in central Dickens County. And again, I realize we are talking about areas that may not be particularly populated, much more sparsely populated than, say, areas we talk about in Central and East Texas. But folks out here are just as important. That being said, we did have a tornado warning earlier that was northwest of Snyder. And the reason we didn't go live for that one was circulation, honestly, wasn't all that impressive. It was over very rural areas. This is impacting towns and comparatively more populated areas. Here's the latest which way the wind is blowing mode scan. We're going to get another scan here in just a second. The latest scan from the Lubbock radar shows a very strong circulation now near Dickens. So those of you in Dickens, you really need to be in a safe place, all right? We've been telling you for over 10 minutes now that something bad's coming, and it is just about in town. So please be in a safe place. Lowest floor, center room, away from windows. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. I'm going to try to clean up this radar data for y'all real quick. That obviously didn't work. So those of you in Dickens, again, a very strong low-level circulation developing now pretty much near or just west of Dickens on this latest scan. We've got one circulation there. We've got one circulation there. We've got no indications at this point of a verified tornado debris signature. But again, we're also in West Texas. There's not a whole lot to hit out here that's going to get lofted several thousand feet in the air. Compared to the eastern half of Texas, where, you know, we've got trees and stuff like that that can get sucked up. Out here, there's just, you know, tumbleweeds, fence posts until you actually hit structures, which we don't want. But again, those of you in Dickens, you need to be in a safe place. If there's a tornado down, it is very near Dickens right now, moving southeast at about 35 miles an hour. And I'll tell you, that is a concerning velocity signature. We don't have any ground truth of a tornado down right now, but let me tell you, this is not a good time to be in Dickens. At this point, it's already there. So at this point, I have no doubt probably Dickens has no power, and it's probably blowing like a hurricane in Dickens right now. Let's go ahead and pop on the teleprompter thingy here. We've got winds moving towards the Lubbock radar at about 75 miles an hour. We've got winds moving away about 45 to 55 miles an hour. So this is a very strong circulation. Now, hopefully, this is a situation to where the couplet is still broad enough to where we're just getting very strong straight line winds on the backside of the circulation. But understand, this is the kind of a circulation that could easily have a tornado down. And even if it doesn't, we're probably seeing 90 to 110 mile an hour winds on the backside of the circulation in Dickens right now. So those of you in Dickens, you need to be in a safe place, all right? Eventually, this is going to be moving down Highway 70 towards Spur, and thereafter Gilpin to areas north of Jayden. This is going to stay well west of Guthrie, well east of Rawls and Crosbyton. This is already south of Glen, south of Elton, south of Roaring Spring, south of Matador. But Highway 70 is not going to be a good place to be right now, and for at least the next hour between Jayden up to Dickens, as this thunderstorm continues to move east-southeast at about 35 miles an hour with very strong circulation. The conditions earlier this afternoon, we had weaker low-level wind shear and less moisture available for these thunderstorms. They were elevated, high cloud bases. Now that we're after sunset, we're starting to see some of these conditions improve. For example, the surface dew point is probably about 61 degrees now. Earlier, it was about 53 to 55. Which means, without going nerdy, now that we've passed sunset, surface temperatures have cooled, cloud bases are lower, and that increases the potential with stronger low-level winds that we could generate a tornado. This is going to be not only a potential tornado, but if we have a tornado down, this could actually be a stronger tornado. So this is going to be very near Dickens right now. The circulation is doing some weird things where it's, you notice this latest scan, it almost turned almost more east. If this is going to do what we had last Wednesday, this eventually may turn more to the north. So those of you in Dickens, if you can still hear me, you need to stay in shelter for at least another 10 minutes. Back on the hail front, there's probably baseball-sized hail falling in Dickens right now. Winds, backside of the circulation, could easily be over 100 miles an hour. This is going to be the potential for a large and extremely dangerous tornado now near Dickens. This is 2 counties east of Lubbock. This is east of Rawls, east of Crosbyton, west of Guthrie, south of Roaring Springs, south of Matador. We've got a new tornado warning now. This will include the community of Spur. This will include Gilpin. Gilpin, Spur, Dickens, anyone in those areas. This is a tornado warning until 10:30 p.m. You can see the damage threat is considerable. At 10:05 p.m., a potentially significant strong tornado is located over Dickens, moving southeast at 25 miles an hour. This is a particularly dangerous situation. Take cover now. And again, this is a situation where we could have a strong rain-wrapped tornado in progress just near or just southeast of Dickens. Those of you in Dickens, I would bet a couple bucks here that y'all have no power right now, and no one in Dickens is actually able to watch this. But those of you in Dickens, those of you in southern Dickens County, down Highway 70 to Spur, down Highway 70 to Gilpin, north of Jayden, this is well north of Claremont. You need to be in a safe place. This is going to be east of Crosbyton, west of Guthrie, south of Roaring Springs, south of Elton, south of Glen. This thunderstorm not only could have what may be a strong tornado, but baseball-sized hail. And we've already measured winds over 90 miles an hour on the backside of this circulation back when it was northwest of Dickens and near McAdoo. So again, this is a situation where we may have a large, strong, completely hail-wrapped tornado now just southeast of Dickens. Understand, I have no doubt. I am very confident Dickens has no power right now. Dickens probably hasn't had power for a while. If for some reason folks out here are actually watching me, down in Spur, down in Gilpin, heads up. Everyone south of Dickens, south of Highway 80, well, honestly, along and south of Highway 82 to west of Guthrie on the King-Dickens County line, all the way down Highway 70 to Spur, all the way down to 948 and 70, all the way down to Gilpin. You need to take your tornado safety precautions. A potentially significant, large, rain-wrapped tornado is in progress. And the issue we're looking at here is because there's so much hail, and the fact we're not over a super populated area, there's not really going to be an easy way to tell if we have tornado debris, because sometimes this product can be contaminated with hail. But I am a little concerned here that might be debris that's been lofted by a tornado. I'm not going to say for sure that's a tornado debris signature, because that could just be baseball-sized hail somewhat interfering with this, but we have a very strong velocity signature. We have a possible tornado debris signature right after the circulation moved through Dickens, and this thing is just mean looking. So again, it's 10:09 p.m. I'm Texas Storm Chaser's David-Reimer. We've got what could be a strong tornado in progress now, just southeast of Dickens, Texas. This is 2 counties east of Lubbock and west central Texas, east of Rawls, east of Crosbyton, not an issue for those folks, west of Guthrie, not an issue for Guthrie, south of Roaring Springs, south of Elton, north of Spur, north of Gilpin for now. But those of you in Spur and Gilpin, and anyone south of 82 or on 82 or along 82 from Dickens south, you need to be in your tornado safe place. Best place to be out here, a cellar, a storm shelter, or basement. But if you can't do that, lowest floor, center room, away from windows, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. All right? Put on hard sole shoes, boots, something that's got good rubber or metal in them, and put on a helmet. I don't care what kind of helmet, but if you have any sort of debris flying around, that'll help. And again, I know we're talking about an area that doesn't have a whole lot of population here, but there are folks out here. I'm afraid Dickens may have just been hit by a tornado. I really hope not. At the least, Dickens probably just got smashed by baseball-sized hail and 75 to 105 mile-an-hour winds. At worst, there may have been a tornado with that. Back over to the which way the wind's blowing mode, and you can see we still have a very strong gate-to-gate couplet. The bright reds against the bright blues here. And again, this is now probably 2 miles southeast of Dickens. We've got a 100 to 110 mile-an-hour gate-to-gate couplet, completely wrapped in heavy rain and hail. We don't have any reports at this point, but to be frank, I don't think we'd have reports right now. It's 10 o'clock at night. It is dark. This thing's wrapped in more rain and hail than a wig on my head would hide. And at this point, depending on how much this may have hit, power and communication infrastructure may be completely down. Now, should the worst have happened and we have a lot of damage out here, I want to make sure first responders are aware that it would not be a good idea to be going up Highway 70 right now from, say, Jayden up to Dickens. It's safe to approach from the west if you're coming from, like, Lubbock, Idalou, Rails, Crosbyton. Safe to come from the west. If anyone's coming from the east, from, say, Guthrie, we've still got big hail on 82, and this possible tornado just southeast of 82 and 70 right now. I wouldn't recommend travel on that for a while, or you may be getting hit by hail. Coming in from the north on 70, the potential for large hail all the way up to Roaring Springs, up to Glen continues. But again, what could be a strong tornado now, maybe 3 miles southeast of Dickens. And slowly moving southeast. But this thing could do some weird stuff here when the circulation begins to occlude or weaken. It would not be a surprise to have this turn north. These stronger low-level mesocyclones and these what could be a strong tornado, when they weaken or begin to what's called occlude and weaken, tend to take a turn to the north. Sometimes they even turn northwest, so we need to be very cognizant of the fact those of you in Dickens need to stay in shelter. So Dickens, if anyone out there's hearing me or anyone's communicating to anyone in Dickens via text message, stay in shelter. It is still pouring rain and hail. Tornado is literally probably still within 3 miles of Dickens, and I can't rule this thing out taking a north jog that would put it closer to Dickens again. If this thing were to do something really funky. So we're here. And again, this is the only tornado warning we have. I know we've had other storms with hail. It's April in Texas. That's going to happen, but I'm concerned about life-threatening hazards right now, which is this mean circulation. What could be a strong tornado just southeast of Dickens, and this thing's literally just walking east right now. Originally, this was moving southeast, but now we've taken a bit of an east turn, and it's moving very slowly to the east. I'm concerned this is going to try to take a north jog as it begins to occlude. It would be called the Fujiwara effect. I'm not going to go into the nerdisms of that right now, but those of you in Dickens, around Dickens, central and southern Dickens County, all the way down to Spur and Gilpin need to be in a safe place. No travel up Highway 70 from Jayden. No travel from Guthrie West on 82-114. No travel between Crosbyton and Dickens yet. Although at least y'all would be able to see the backside of the storm. Do not go into Dickens yet. No travel recommended south of Roaring Springs on 70 right now. We've still got very heavy rain and hail falling from just south of Roaring Springs all the way into Dickens. And here's the velocity couplet. And we're just waiting to see the next scan. I'm hoping this is beginning to occlude or weaken, which could result in a north jog, but would also likely get rid of the tornado if there's one down. And there probably has been one. This is a very strong velocity signature. So again, we're here. A possible tornado may have just hit Dickens, Texas, 2 counties east of Lubbock in the last 10 minutes. Developed just west of town, moved very near town, now southeast of town. Strong velocity And so back over to the how hard it's raining mode. Some complex storm structure here, but you can see the velocity couplet clear as day. I'll put on some roads here if it'll let me. And again, this is now just east of County Road 335. There's Highway 70. There's 82. And this is Dickens. Possible tornado now is 3 miles southeast of Dickens in central Dickens County. And I know we probably have folks all over the state watching going like, where the heck is this? If it ain't you, don't worry about it in terms of needing to know where it is. I'm talking to folks who live here because they're the ones at risk right now. This is 2 counties east of Lubbock in west central Texas. Don't advise travel on 82 between Crosbyton and Guthrie for a while. Not only do we have big hail, big wind, possible tornado, but we also have probably flooding. Same thing goes on Highway 70 from just south of Roaring Springs down to Spur, and from the pretty much just east of Crosbyton to Dickens, where we could have nasty hail continuing, at least up to the closer you get to Dickens. So overall, the storm has been moving southeast at about 35 miles an hour, but the circulation's put on its brakes and is just sitting just southeast of Dickens. I'm going to load data here so you can see the animation of this circulation. Yeah, it's going to crash my radar program, but I'll reset it. You can see over the last several minutes how this fired up just west of town, moved very near town, is continuing to slowly push southeast. It is now just east of County Road 335, about 3 miles to 4 miles southeast of Dickens. Not far south of Highway 82 at all. I'll try to get a couple more roads on here. And again, this is coming up on County Road. Well, there's the latest scan. You can see the circulation has hit the brakes. This happens with these slower moving storms that have strong circulations. The circulations sometimes just sit there. But again, now just east of County Road 335 between County Road 362 and 82. This is maybe 3 miles southeast of Dickens right now. We'll head back. And again, it's actually closer now, 2 to 2.5 miles. Sometimes these circulations will meander. They turn east and then turn north. You can kind of see that here. Here's the latest scan. Let me pause. I can show you. And here's just the latest scan. You can see how the circulation was moving southeast. And now the latest scan, it almost turned northeast. It pulled this. So again, this may turn back north towards 82 within a couple miles of Dickens. So please be very careful. We do not want folks on 82 between Dickens and Guthrie for a while. This thunderstorm is still capable of producing baseball-size hail, winds of 70 to 100 miles an hour, in addition to what probably was a strong tornado. Best case scenario is that stayed just outside Dickens. We haven't heard any reports yet out of Dickens, but that was not a good look. We'll look south real quick. The only other thing we've got going on right now are hailers. We've got some hailers on 180 between Anson and Rotan, east of Snyder. We've got a very nasty hailer on Highway 67, southwest of Coleman, west of Santa Ana. This is going to be crossing over, 67 now near Valera, moving southeast towards Rockwood, and then southwest of Brownwood. This will stay southwest of Brownwood, crossing over 377 near Brooksmith and Winchell, north of Mercury in the next hour if it survives. And again, you can see the radar thinks this thing has softball-size hail. It could have tennis ball to baseball-size hail, no problem. North in the Panhandle, we're going to have scattered showers and storms increase tonight, maybe some pocket change-size hail. Otherwise, it's just going to be a good, beneficial rain up there. Main issue, and the reason we're here for the first time tonight, is this probable tornado now in progress very near County Road 362, just east of County Road 335, moving southeast at 35 miles an hour. But this circulation has been showing indications it wants to start to turn more to the east. And if it does that, it is possible as the occlusion process occurs, it may turn further north. Honestly, I'm impressed with how long this thing's been hanging on. This has been a long-lived circulation for the environment it's in, and it was a very strong circulation. It continues to be a very strong circulation with the potential for a strong tornado. This circulation, again, as it occludes, could turn back north. It could do this. So those of you from Dickens east on 82 to the Knox County line, no travel on 82. We don't need semis or vehicles getting thrown off 82 from a tornado tonight. We've still got what could be very large hail on 82 from Dickens to about 5 to 7 miles east of Dickens, the how hard it's raining mode. And as this circulation begins to occlude or weaken, we're going to have to see if this wants to fire up a new circulation. Not seeing that just yet. But again, this storm probably has put down a strong tornado in the last 15 minutes. At this point, that's good. The latest scan, we are starting to weaken. It's still probably there, but again, you can see the latest scan that's weakened now. Still have winds moving away from the radar in Lubbock at about 40, moving towards at 70. So that's a 70 mile an hour couplet. We were looking at 100 to 130 miles an hour about 15 minutes ago. So again, it's weakening. Tornado could still be down just north of County Road 362, probably a mile east of 335. We're going to have to watch this carefully in case it nudges back north towards 82. Next thing we're going to need to watch for is if this storm tries to form a new circulation, it would be further southeast. Regardless, this thing is still throwing out golf ball to baseball size hail. That little turn back to the east over the last 10 minutes, though, looks like it's going to keep this east of Spur and hopefully just east of Gilpin. But then again, those of you from Gilpin on 70 north to 82 from Dickens east need to be in a safe place. This is going to stay well west of Guthrie. This is going to remain well east of Crosbyton and Rawls, south of Elton, south of Glen, south of Rolling Springs. But there's a second thunderstorm. This may be a left split moving towards Glen. I'm going to assume this is going to move more northeast. That could have big hail as this storm moves southeast at about 35 miles an hour. And again, this is hopefully we can give Dickens an all clear in the next 10 minutes. But with this circulation still playing around just southeast of town, until it is gone, I'm not giving Dickens an all clear. Just because this can do some weird stuff, and we don't need weird stuff happening. But again, is nothing good can come of this. All right. Again, I'm David Reimer at the Texas Storm Chasers. It's 10:23 on the 25th of April, 2023, covering what may have been a significant strong rain-wrapped tornado near Dickens, Texas. This is west central Texas, 2 counties east of Lubbock on Highway 82, west of Guthrie, east of Rawls, east of Crosbyton, south of Matador on 70, south of Roaring Springs on 70, north of Spur, northwest of Jane, north of well north of 180, south of 7062. All right, good news is with the latest scan, that strong velocity couplet really coming down in intensity now. So that means hopefully this thing's gone. But this remains a dangerous thunderstorm. Winds still rotating. Seeing winds moving away from the radar in Lubbock about 21, moving towards at about 35. So again, we're down to about 50 mile an hour shear, meaning I don't think we have a strong tornado down now. That being said, we're going to have to wait and see if this tries to spin up a new tornado. It may. We're going to have to see if this is going to be a cyclic storm, and if it is, how many times are we going to have to go through this cycle before we're done with tornadoes? Regardless, this thunderstorm is going to continue moving to the southeast at about 35 miles an hour. The potential for baseball-sized hail, winds of 70 to 90 miles an hour, not including any sort of tornado issues. Good news is the rotational couplet has come down in intensity for now, but we may have a new circulation firing up. It's still broad, but this would be about... One moment, please. Probably closer to 8 to 10 miles southeast of Dickens. Dickens, unless we have another storm issue, if you're in Dickens, you should be clear now from this tornado. You've still got heavy rain, lightning, you may still have a bit of hail, but the worst is off to your east and is moving away. So Dickens, you're clear. If we have damage in Dickens and we have emergency crews responding from out of county, those of you coming from the west on 82 should be cleared to come in east into Dickens. If we got folks coming from the south, say on 208, you're mostly clear for now, but be careful the closer you get to Dickens, just in case it's throwing some hailstones off the back side of it. We have a storm with possibly some hail now on 70 between Roaring Springs and just north of Dickens. That could prove problematic, and I would still advise no travel from Guthrie west on 82-114 to Dickens. This thunderstorm, capable of producing a tornado, damaging winds, very large hail, is moving southeast at 35 miles an hour. For what it's worth, if this storm were to continue, this could be an issue for Aspermont by 11:30 p.m. This could be an issue for areas just northeast of Jayden by 11 p.m. This could be an issue for Swenson by 11:20 p.m. In Stonewall County, just west of 83, near 380. This is going to stay south of Guthrie, west of Haskell, probably. And again, this is going to be moving southeast at 35 miles an hour. Let me switch radar sources. Switch it over to the how hard it's raining mode. I'm going to give you a loop over the last hour just so you can see the storm motion here. It's going to take a minute for that to load. And you can see we do have a second storm northwest of Dickens. It's not moving as northeast like I thought. It's actually moving east-southeast slowly, so it may end up having big-time hail, or another round of hail at least in Dickens if this storm gets closer to Dickens. Not a tornado threat at this point, northwest of Dickens, but hail could be an issue again. So that's what it looks like, the how hard it's raining mode. Let's go back to the Concho Valley, the big country. I'm going to do the same exact thing. Show you what's going on. We got some heavy rain, maybe some dime-sized hail near Anson. All the way back on 380 to Ruby. Small hail. Those aren't severe right now. This thunderstorm approaching Santa Ana almost looks like it's moved a little further east, so this is going to bring a hail threat maybe to Santa Ana now. Is severe, could have tennis ball size hail. It's moving southeast at about 30 miles an hour. So again, those of you in Santa Ana, this hail course trying to trend closer to you. This is on Highway 67. Hopefully most of the hail, or the largest hail, stay just southwest of Santa Ana. Otherwise, it's going to be crossing over 283, moving southeast at about 25 to 30 miles an hour, eventually crossing over 377 if it's still around in an hour, near Winchell to Brooksmith on 377, staying well southwest of Brownwood, unless something dumb happens, in which case Mother Nature is being a troll. Up here, we do have a tornado warning through 11... through what? Excuse me, not 11:30 through, well, now 10:30. But I don't think they're going to issue a new one. The circulation is much more broad than it was earlier. Yes, this is a supercell. It's still got big hail, tennis ball, baseball size hail. Winds moving southeast or winds of 70, 80 miles an hour, and heavy rain. But the tornado signature is gone. You can see here the tornado warning has been allowed to expire. We'll switch back over to the which way the wind's blowing mode, and I'll just show you a loop over the last hour. And you can see that as we load data, you can see what the velocity couplet looked like back over Dickens. Bright blue against bright pink. And let me tell you, that's not a good indicator. And that was way too close to Dickens. We haven't heard any reports out of Dickens. Any reports. We haven't heard reports of no damage. We haven't heard reports of damage. We haven't heard anything out of Dickens, which isn't necessarily a good thing, but at the same time, it's 10:30 at night. I have no doubt power's out in Dickens, and it may have knocked out communications. So hopefully all we had in Dickens was some bad hail with strong winds. I say only because that's preferable to a strong tornado knocking houses down. But again, you can see that velocity couplet has weakened considerably. And at this point, there is no longer strong enough evidence to support the possibility of a tornado for that tornado warning. While we're here, real quick, let's take a look at what we're expecting for the remainder of tonight. So give me just a second to press some buttons here. And we'll take a look at the high-res rapid refresh model for tonight. This is just to give you an idea of what we're expecting. And understand, real quick before let's look at this, then I'll show you the severe weather outlook for tomorrow. We're going to be busy on Wednesday. Areas farther east. Let me load the simulated model radar. And again, this is what the HER model thinks is going to be going on at 11 o'clock. I mean, it's not too far off. So here's 2 a.m. You can see we're actually going to have more storms in the Panhandle and West Texas by 2 a.m. Notice some of these could have hail and strong winds approaching I-27. More severe storms with hail possible and strong winds in West Texas after midnight. Even some storms still underway in southeast Texas. You can see by 4 a.m., a little bow echo, it looks like, east of Amarillo down to Plainview. That could be severe with strong winds, maybe some hail, heavy rain. You could see that, honestly, would have a lot of wind with it. Just south of Shamrock, down to Wellington, if this model were right at 5 a.m. Wednesday. Also some storms in southeast Texas could be strong. A lot of lightning, some small hail. And also some storms in North Texas. Some lightning, heavy rain. Here's 7 a.m., 9 a.m. You can see a cluster of storms in Oklahoma, down into northwest Texas, moving east. Gusty winds, pocket change size hail perhaps, heavy rain. And then here is 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. You can see some storms in North Texas. How far south this cluster of storms makes it tomorrow is going to dictate where our severe weather threat tomorrow afternoon sets up. The severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center, we've got a level 3 out of 5 risk. North Texas, parts of Central Texas, northern Brazos Valley, back into East Texas. That includes DFW Metroplex, down to Waco, Fort Hood, Killeen, east to Tyler, Longview, Carthage, Palestine, Fairfield, Centerville. And that's orange zone, means you've got a 1 in 3 chance of rowdy weather in your neck of the woods tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. Large hail, damaging winds, a few tornadoes possible. That yellow shaded zone, that's a level 2. That's what we've had today. That's about a 1 in 5 chance for rowdy storms in your neck of the woods tomorrow afternoon to tomorrow night. That includes northwest Texas, Wichita Falls, the Big Country, Abilene, runs down to Brownwood, Central Texas, the Brazos Valley, Round Rock, Bryan College Station, just north of Jasper, out to Dibble to Pineland, up into northeast Texas, Sherman, Paris, Texarkana. And then this green is about a 1 in 10 to a 1 in 20 chance for rowdy storms in your neck of the woods tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. Eastern Texas Panhandle, Concho Valley down to San Angelo, the Hill Country, Uvalde, out to San Antonio, into the Victoria Crossroads, southeast Texas, the Golden Triangle. And understand, severe weather outlooks from the Storm Prediction Center are not necessarily based on intensity in terms of the higher risk levels, but the coverage level. The higher your risk level, the higher the chance of more numerous rowdy thunderstorms in your neck of the woods, the higher the chance of a rowdy thunderstorm in your immediate vicinity. A storm in the level 1 risk in many cases, can produce the same severe weather hazards as a storm at a level 2 or level 3 risk. They're just more isolated, fewer storms. In terms of the tornado outlook for tomorrow, currently the highest threat relatively for a few tornadoes right along I-20 and 380 from pretty much Throckmorton to Abilene, all the way east through the DFW Metroplex, out towards Mineola, Greenville, Tyler. But again, this is going to shift somewhat as we get new data in over the next several hours into tomorrow morning and the new severe weather outlooks around 1 a.m. from the Storm Prediction Center. So with that being said, we no longer have any tornado warnings in the state of Texas. We still have some hailers, and we're going to have more hailers overnight in West Texas and the Panhandle. You can see those first storms, or those additional storms firing up between Dimmitt and Earth and Sudan right now, west of I-27. We could see some storms with hail and strong wind develop, and then move east into the eastern Panhandle, Oklahoma, northwest Texas by tomorrow morning. We could also continue to see a few storms overnight into Wednesday morning across southeast Texas, the Brazos Valley, and North Texas. But again, we'll be back if we have any additional tornado warnings or any sort of crazy severe weather. Otherwise, you can keep an eye on the sky with the free Texas Storm Chasers mobile app. Just search for Texas Storm Chasers in the Apple app, Google Play stores, or just go to your web browser, type in texasweather.app, and that'll take you to the app download page. Or if you prefer the web browser version, texasstormchasers.com/radar. You can keep an eye on the sky with our free interactive weather radar. All right, we'll be back if necessary. Otherwise, we'll have the Texas Weather Roundup weather video forecast out by 7 a.m. Wednesday. Y'all have a good night. God bless.